Howdy friends, Tulio here behind the wheel again, and I'm in the northeast part of Colorado Springs, actually really close to my Keller Williams office. This is a path I use to work my way to my house after work. But today I'm going to show you a neighborhood that is has been around for a little while. I mean, that's all relative to where you come from. But it was built like in the late 80s, early 90s here in the spring. It was one of the first Northeast neighborhoods up here in this sector. So like closer to Powers Boulevard. So I just turned off of Powers Boulevard to the west on Dublin Boulevard. Okay. And I'm just gonna go a little ways in. There's a lot of new stuff in this area too. Gosh, I lived in the neighborhood I'm gonna show you in the mid 90s, and so much has grown up around it over the years that it's hard to believe that it's the same neighborhood. And when you have that type of a history with a neighborhood, you also remember like when there was like no trees at all and now there's big trees and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. So I'm going to take you through this subdivision and show you what it's all about. Okay, so we're approaching a corner here called Oakwood. If you go to the left, it's Bridle Pass if you go to the right. And, homes in this area have definitely, as they've grown, the homes have gotten, builders started to do bigger homes. And this neighborhood has some homes that are a little more affordable for the Northeast area because when they started building in here, they literally did some homes that were as small as like 1,100, 1,200 square feet, like 3 bedroom, 2 bath stuff. And then they started to put in more filings in the area, um, somewhat bigger homes. But this neighborhood is called Sundown. And I'm going to take you through a few sections of Sundown because there's a northern aspect that's a little bit newer and the southern aspect that's a little bit older. And they're buffered by this open space right here in between the two where there's a little bit of a creek. It's dry most of the time unless it rains, but it's kind of nice to have that type of natural buffer between the two filings. And they were definitely done at, two different times. The first subdivision of Sundown, which would take you through several of the streets. Like I said, it was late 80s, early 90s is when it was built. And a friend of mine owned one of the first homes in here. And it was kind of funny because the picture of her was with one of these little homes. It's a 2-story, and then it was literally cows off to the side. Like they hadn't started to build, and there was still cow land all around her house. But you can see there's larger trees. The time that I'm filming this is in the winter, so there's not really any leaves on the trees right now. But yeah, I've definitely seen this neighborhood grow and change. Now, there's some people who like neighborhoods that don't have a homeowners association, and there's some people that prefer neighborhoods that do. This neighborhood does not have an HOA. The house has a metal roof. You don't see that very much. I actually met that couple at a closing years ago, and they told me about their house, and it's the only one in Sundown with a metal roof, and it's like copper color. It's so funny because they were outside when I just drove by. I was the buyer agent. They were the listing agent on one of their rental properties. And that's when I met them. I just saw them again. You see, like, here's a little rancher. That little rancher is probably, it's deceptive. I bet it has a basement, so it's bigger than it looks. Ranchers will do that to you. Because the age of these homes, you'll see, you know, more people that are like remodeling them at this stage. There's a strip with a bunch of smaller ranchers. Some of them have actually look like ranchers, but they're not because they go upward in the rear and back to some 2 stories. You'll see mostly brick on the lower front of these homes. And then wood siding on the sides and uppers. Because there's no homeowners association, every now and then you'll see a house that's painted. I just saw a very bright yellow house. If there was an HOA, they probably wouldn't allow the bright yellow, but it's not like an eyesore. It's just yellow. Off to my left, there's a church. One time I was filming a house in here, literally inside, making a video on this street. I don't know which house it was anymore, but I was doing it for some out of state military clients. And I shut the door to the patio or deck and it locked when I went out to film the backyard from the deck. And it was a upper level deck. And I didn't have shoes on because I removed my shoes to walk through the house. And the last thing I was doing was the deck and showing the backyard from that upper level. And I couldn't get to my shoes. And when I walked down to the bottom of the stairs on the deck, I couldn't walk through the rocks because they were really pointy rocks. So that was a funny situation. Fortunately, my office is nearby. And another agent on my team at the time, I called him and he came and saved me and got me out of that situation. The sun's going down. As I mentioned, I'm filming this in the winter, and our days are shorter here in Colorado in the wintertime. So December, January, February, around 4:30 or so, the sun really does start to go down. Now, this neighborhood is, because of its location, very handy to get to places like the Air Force Academy, Peterson Air Force Base. There's some newer hospitals here on the north end, both UC Health and Children's Hospital, and there's another large hospital group as well that are all up here. And then we've got the YMCA owns a exercise place and a big wave pool at Cottonwood Park, which is super close to here. You can almost walk there. There's Villa Sport, which is a huge super fitness center just a little north of here. You could ride a bicycle there in a few minutes. And then there's just a ton of restaurants and shops and dining, movie theaters and sporting goods and the super hardwares and all that type of stuff. Easy to get to from here. This is the Sundown neighborhood in the northeast part of Colorado Springs. For the northeast area, it's somewhat more affordable. A lot of that's because of the size of the homes. They're not too big. But the location is definitely considered a good location because of where it sits and proximity to a lot of stuff that's desirable. When I lived in this neighborhood years ago, the trees had barely even started to grow. Now they're pretty big. People here, our neighborhoods here tend to have cluster mailboxes as opposed to having their own mailbox right in front. And you will see more traditional fences in this area, 6-foot cedar privacy type fences. As you go out east and even on the west side, you'll see a lot of neighborhoods where fences are predominantly split rail. And here and in lots of neighborhoods still have 6-foot privacy fences is more common. That is definitely the case here. Which tends to be a little more desirable when you have, say, children, or if you want to contain your pets, stuff like that. It's a little more helpful to have the taller fences. You can see the houses that face north because they still have snow in their yards. The house's shadows in the winter kind of keep the yards a little more cool. Because of that, the snow sticks around a little longer on the houses where the fronts of the houses face north. Okay, now I'm bringing you out of the Sundown neighborhood, and I'm just going to show you some of the stuff that's around here. It's kind of funny because when you've been in real estate for a while, like I have since 1998, almost every street kind of has a story for you. And it's made up of all the families that you've helped over the years and people who've come and gone too. And you see a house, you're, oh my gosh, I remember when such and such bought that with me. That was their first home. And then I sold it for them. And then a few years later, I helped another family on buy on that street. And then they sold and moved away. So I leave this traditional subdivision. There's a little patio home community right here to the right, where it's all stucco ranchers and they're connected to one another. Approaching Dublin Boulevard here. If I were to continue through, it would take me into some newer neighborhoods and take you right over to Villa Sport, which is that super fitness center I mentioned earlier. There's a couple of RV storage facilities up here, one here on the left, and then one just to the south of that neighborhood that I showed you earlier, the Sundown neighborhood, where we keep our pop-up camper at. Now over to my left, there's a mini golf, new Subway, there's a nail place, there's a place called 18 Walk, there's an imaging center for like x-rays and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna come into this little plaza right here. There's a brand new like Maverick gas station that's huge. Little plaza right here, but it's worth checking out just because it has some cool like family owned businesses in it. And I really like the family owned stuff. I like to support local, but I just appreciate having these little strip malls or plazas. First one is this Ascent cycling shop, and it's right there. We bring our bicycles there to get them maintained. Then Paris Bon Mi Cafe Bakery, and there's a Top Knot Beauty Lounge, one of those places where you can get your nails done and have a drink. There's a IV spot, Prime IV, and there's another little family-owned store at the end. Beyond that, and there's a new like assisted living center, a relatively newer, been around for a little while, a 7-Eleven on the corner. There's a Dutch Bros that my kids love. Just here and just seeing what's gone up over the last few years, it's pretty amazing because there was a long time where there was really nothing at this corner or not much. And now you could just come to this corner and you have multiple choices of places to go. There's a Taco Bell right there. There's a Dion's Pizza right here. And if you lived in that neighborhood at sundown, you could literally walk to that corner if you wanted. It might be a 10-minute walk, but you could walk and eat at like 10 different places without even crossing a major road. Now, I am going to cross a major road here. I'm back on Dublin and I'm headed east now. And I'm going to take you to just to another plaza here. I could take you to a ton of them. But I just want you to see what, if you choose to live in the Sundown community, what's really close to it. I remember when I lived there and I thought, I wanted to go to the library, and there's a very nice library in the northeast part of Colorado Springs. And I thought at the time it was probably the nicest one. It still might be the nicest one. The reason why I think that is that library's got just amazing views. Just you can sit and read in front of windows facing the front range of Pikes Peak, and it's just gorgeous. So I don't do that as much anymore. I still read a lot, but I don't go to the library anymore. And need to start. When the kids were little, we used to go to that library all the time. But, okay, so I'm on Dublin, crossing over Powers, going to the east. And there's this relatively new plaza right here. and it's just chock full of restaurants and shops, really. And this other little one right here open behind it. There's a smaller Panera across the street. There's a Bird Call chicken sandwich, chicken restaurant. There's a Starbucks over there. There's Dublin Modern Dentistry. That's where my kids go to get their stuff done. And then there's a family dentistry spot over here. There's a Chick-fil-A off to the right. And if our Chick-fil-A is anything like yours or elsewhere in the country, it's busy, like all the time. Now I'm going to show you what we have in here from a couple of different viewpoints. But as I'm driving west right here, there's some beautiful views of the mountains. You can see them off of one of the cameras there. Okay, so as I turn in here, we've got a relatively new Dunkin' Donuts. I always think this is kind of funny because it's right next to a 5-star nutrition store. There's a Verizon, Firehouse Subs, Fuzzy's Tacos. Because it's so close to my office, we go to Fuzzy's quite a bit. Now you get a good view of the mountains off. Whenever I come to any of these shops or restaurants here, I just can't believe how nice the view is of the mountains. You could be almost anywhere in the restaurant, and if you just see a window, you see mountains. That's something I tell my clients here. So often clients say, I got to have a house with a view. And usually that means a view off the back of a house because that's where your deck is. I tell people, gosh, if all you do is leave your home, you'll see mountains everywhere you go. If you want to spend an extra $100,000 for that mountain view, knock yourself out, but you're going to see mountains when you walk to the mailbox, when you go to the park, when you go to the grocery store, when you go to church, anyway, any of that. Now, right over there is a really neat rock climbing place. My kids have done that several times. And as I make this turn, there's Colorado's Rib Chop House. That's a nice restaurant. The food's really good there. Buff City Soap. It's like family-owned, handmade soap. Club Pilates. Skirted Heifer. That place was on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Amazing burgers. Crumble Cookie. The place is dangerous. My son loves it. Snooze Mattress. Frozen yogurt, Menchie's, sushi. I'm going to cut through right over here since it's a little bit quiet at the moment. Go Mod Pizza. Nothing Bunt Cakes. Those are always fun. Beauty Bar. Another one of those places. It's probably the original. I know the owners. They're friends. Where you can actually get your nails done, hair done, whatever, and have a drink if you want. Massage Heights. And then we've got this combo place, Salsa Brava and the Urban Egg. Urban Egg's the breakfast side. Salsa Brava is a Mexican place. It's really good. Both of them are really good. They're owned by the same company, and you can sit pretty much on either side and get breakfast in the morning. But then it switches over to a lunch spot in the afternoon. So that's a really neat, pretty new plaza that's super close to the Sundown community. And you could totally just, I wouldn't say walk over here because you have to cross Powers, which is a busy road, but you could come over here and be to all those amenities, restaurants, stores, places like that, and close to my office, Keller Williams Partners, in no time at all. So, all right. Well, that was just a little share from me to you of the Sundown community and amenities, restaurants, shops, stuff like that that are really close by in the Northeast area. So, friends, if these videos are helpful to you, make sure to follow, like, or subscribe. Just push that button. And I will keep bringing you more education about living in Colorado Springs. We'll see you soon.